Okay, so you're here because you keep hearing this phrase, balanced life healthcare.
Yeah.
And you're kind of curious, right? Like, what is that all about? Well, stick with us for the next few minutes, and we're going to deep dive into why this approach is gaining traction and how you can actually, make it work in your own life.
Yeah, it really is fascinating how balanced life healthcare kind of shifts our whole perspective, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
like instead of just saying, okay, let's just treat whatever symptoms pop up,
Mhm.
it's acknowledging that our well-being is so much bigger than that.
Right.
It's really more like a tapestry woven from all these different threads.
Hmm.
Physical, mental, emotional, and social.
Total. Okay, so let's break down each of these threads then,
Yeah.
right? Starting with, I guess, the most obvious one that probably comes to mind first, which is physical wellness.
Right.
Now, you've probably heard all the usual advice already, right?
Yeah.
Nutrition, exercise, getting enough sleep, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I think where people get tripped up is consistency.
Yeah.
It's those small little everyday choices that really add up over time and make a big difference.
Exactly. Think of it like almost like compound interest, but for your health.
Yeah.
Like choosing a piece of fruit instead of a bag of chips, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator.
Yeah.
Even just, I don't know, stepping outside for a couple minutes to get some fresh air. All those things might seem tiny on their own, but trust me, they accumulate over time.
So true. And speaking of that whole idea of being proactive with your health, let's shift gears for a second and talk about preventative care.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you're already on top of scheduling those annual checkups, right?
Absolutely.
But are you taking advantage of all the different screenings that are out there?
Hmm.
Because depending on how old you are and any risk factors you might have, there's so many different things you could be doing to catch things early, like
Ah.
cholesterol checks, blood sugar, colonoscopies, mammograms.
All that stuff.
And I know it's not always the most fun thing to think about, but I've got to say, early detection can honestly be life-changing.
Oh, yeah, it really can.
So it's all about, being proactive and being in the driver's seat when it comes to your health.
Exactly. And, not just waiting around until something goes wrong.
Right.
And this actually brings us to another really interesting point, because recent research is showing more and more just how interconnected our physical health is with our mental and emotional well-being.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not even just about, feeling good mentally and emotionally. There's a real physiological impact going on there.
Okay, so we always hear that stress is bad for us.
Right.
But can you break down, like, what's actually happening in our bodies when we're stressed?
Yeah, sure. So basically, when we're stressed out, our bodies release this hormone called cortisol,
Right.
which in small doses, like short bursts, it's not a bad thing. It actually helps us deal with challenges.
Right.
But when cortisol is constantly high, like when we're chronically stressed, that's when it starts to cause problems,
Wow.
like weight gains, sleep problems. It can even weaken your immune system.
Oh, wow.
So you're more likely to get sick, and in the long term, it can even increase your risk of things like heart disease and diabetes.
Okay, so that makes stress management sound even more important.
Definitely.
Now, I know a lot of people, they hear meditation and they're like, oh, can't do that. My mind's too busy. I can't sit still.
Yeah.
Any advice for those folks?
Yeah, absolutely. Mindfulness doesn't have to be this big intimidating thing where you gotta like sit in silence for an hour. You can start really small and build up from there.
Okay.
Like even just, try this little thing called the S-stop-P method. Stop what you're doing, take a few deep breaths, observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment, and then proceed with your day.
I like that, the S-stop-E method. That's
Ah.
easy to remember.
Right. And, there's also some great apps out there like Headspace and Calm,
Yeah.
which have guided meditations that are specifically designed for beginners,
Yeah.
different lengths, different topics, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so what about journaling? Because I feel like some people, they hear that. They're like, oh, I don't have time for that. Or they're just intimidated by the whole idea.
Right. You don't have to write a novel.
Yeah.
Even just like jotting down 3 things you're grateful for each day.
Oh, yeah.
It can really shift your focus towards the positive and improve your mood.
So true.
And there's actually research that's shown gratitude journaling can change your brain over time, making you more resilient to stress.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about physical wellness. We've talked about mental and emotional well-being. But what about the social side of things?
Yeah.
Because I've actually heard some people argue that, social health is kind of like a luxury,
Right.
not a necessity,
Right.
Like we can get by without it. How would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, the science is pretty clear at this point. Social connection is just as crucial to our well-being as things like eating healthy food and drinking water.
Wow.
Studies have shown that people who are lonely and isolated, they actually have a higher risk of all kinds of health problems.
Yeah, really.
Oh, yeah. Heart disease, stroke, dementia, even premature death.
That's scary.
Yeah. So it's definitely not something to take lightly.
Okay, so given how busy most of us are these days, what are some practical tips for, actually cultivating those meaningful connections?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, start by prioritizing quality over quantity.
Okay.
So instead of trying to, keep up with like a huge social circle, focus on really nurturing a few close relationships. Like
Yeah.
make time for phone calls or video chats with friends and family who live far away. And even just those little everyday interactions, those can make a difference too.
Oh, yeah.
Like strike up a conversation with your barista or, join a community group or take a class to meet some new people.
So basically what we're learning here is that balanced healthcare is really taking this big picture view, right?
Absolutely.
And it's about recognizing that every choice we make, every little thing we do,
Mm-hmm.
contributes to our overall sense of well-being.
Yeah, exactly. And, the food we eat, the way we move our bodies, how we manage stress, who we spend our time with, all of that is interconnected.
Okay, so for those listening who are like, okay, I'm ready to embrace this whole balanced life thing,
Right.
what's like one specific step they could take in each of the areas we've talked about today?
Yeah. Okay. So for physical wellness, I'd say try adding a 15-minute walk to your daily routine,
That's manageable.
right? For mental and emotional well-being, experiment with a 5-minute guided meditation before bed.
Okay.
And for social health, reach out to a friend or family member you haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah.
And schedule a time to connect.
So simple, but
Yeah.
so important.
Right.
Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for all the insights.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be here.
As we wrap up here, what's like one key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
I would say just remember that balanced life healthcare is a journey, not a destination.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect. It's about making small, sustainable changes, that fit into your life and that you can stick with over time.
Yeah, that's so key. So key.
It's progress, not perfection.
Yes, love that. So as you're navigating your own journey, just remember that even those little, seemingly insignificant choices,
Yeah.
they can create this ripple effect that leads to a healthier, happier, and more fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening out there, we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.